Washing Tech.
The better storyteller is winning the fight with getting their messaging out there.
Welcome to the Washing Tech Policy Podcast. We deliver the latest tech policy news and brightest tech policy experts to you, wherever you are, so you can stay productive, relevant, and informed in less time. From Washington, D.C., it's the Washing Tech Policy Podcast with Joe Miller.
Twitter had to take down the violent tweet of a Texas state lawmaker. Are the consequences of posting violent content severe enough? Plus, The Intercept reports on the National Rifle Association's massive increase in Facebook spending following the El Paso and Dayton shootings. And Januel+Johnson is my guest. Twitter took down the tweet of a Texas state lawmaker for violating Twitter's policy against promoting violence. The Republican legislator Briscoe Cain wrote that his, quote, AR is ready for you, after presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke tweeted, "Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15s." O'Rourke called Cain's tweet a death threat. The Intercept reported that the National Rifle Association increased its spending on Facebook ads following last month's shootings in El Paso and Dayton, in which 32 people were killed. The Intercept reported that the NRA's Facebook spending reached a high point of $29,000 on August 18th, with $360,000 spent on ads in the month following the attacks, compared to just $9,400 during the month prior. The DOJ announced the arrest of 281 individuals worldwide who were allegedly co-conspirators in a pervasive wire scam targeting banks and their customers. The Hill reports the scammers target bank employees with access to financial information, whom they then persuade to transfer funds to a fraudulent account. More than half the arrests were made in Nigeria, but law enforcement officials also made arrests in the U.S., U.K., Turkey, Japan, and several other countries. The DOJ conducted the operation, dubbed Operation Rewired, along with the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, Departments of Homeland Security, State, and Treasury. Facebook announced its efforts to prevent self-harm as part of its participation in World Suicide Prevention Day last Tuesday. The company said it'll be hiring a health and well-being expert, as well as seek to explore ways to share relevant data with the public that could be used to prevent self-harm. Also, Facebook will no longer allow triggering content such as images of self-harm or cutting. Finally, Facebook suspended a chatbot on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Facebook page. The chatbot promised site visitors that Netanyahu would pursue a right-wing agenda against, quote, Arabs who want to destroy us all. Facebook suspended the bot for just 24 hours and promised to take additional action if they detect any further violations. And you can find links to all these stories in the show notes and also in our Twitter feed, and our handle is at Washing Tech. Stay with us.
Washing Tech, the inclusive voice of tech policy. Because America won't stand still for the same old insiders. Insiders. Washing Tech, moving the needle.
Januel+Johnson is an award-winning creative entrepreneur, speaker, and internet personality. First known as the go-to branding guru supporting hundreds of startups and Fortune 500 companies worldwide, with his impactful creative strategies to cultivating hundreds of thousands of social media followers as an influential millennial voice in the fight against social media depression. Currently based in Los Angeles and New York, CJ is best known for his work in next-generation marketing that includes creative strategies, the future of work, diversity and inclusion, and influencer marketing. Please welcome Januel+Johnson. CJ, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Joe. It's good to be here again.
So what have you been up to, man?
I've been doing quite a bit of public speaking and traveling, really discussing how to build your brand, future trends, career life balance tips. And also I've been doing a ton of brand collaborations, really stepping up my game as a social media influencer. So it's been quite busy. It's about to get even busier. It's been a lot of fun. I feel truly blessed.
And you have a conference coming up that you're going to be moderating. Is that right?
Yeah, so I'm going to be moderating this panel called Building a Brand Through Empowerment and Social Change at DTC Day. And obviously, I'm all about empowerment and social change. If you're not familiar with DDC Day is, it's a community of direct-to-consumer brands, retailers, and enthusiasts. So there's going to be founders, CEOs, managers that are there to discuss ways that you can improve your businesses, your life, our environment, and our communities. So it's quite in alignment with my messaging, and I thought it would be great for people to just stop by, learn some awesome tips, connect with people. If you're interested in DTC Day, you can just look it up online, dtcday.com. You can always use CJ100 for $100 off your ticket prices.
Good morning, everybody. Is this their first year doing a conference?
It's not. I believe this is either the second or third one. I'm not quite sure what number this one is, but it's kind of interesting to see how the conference is evolving into having more conversations about sustainability and diversity and inclusion, how that's becoming like a much bigger topic as far as how to run an effective business and build your brand. So it's really nice to see that more conferences are really trying to talk about that topic.
So how do you stay on top of all these conferences, CJ? Because I just personally feel overwhelmed a lot of the time, and I know a lot of folks listening feel overwhelmed kind of keeping track of a lot of these conferences, and the first time they hear about it is when people are tweeting about it or posting on Instagram. So is there a particular calendar or email list we should sign up for to find out about what's happening?
Yeah, absolutely. What I like to do is, first of all, yes, you can always go to my website, www.cjjohnsonjr.com, and I have a calendar that I have on my homepage. You can also sign up to my email newsletter, subscribe to my email newsletter, and always find out new things that are happening. I just, for me, I do a lot of research and see how I can be a part of different opportunities. The opportunities come my way as well, keeping track of it. I've just been doing this for a really long time. So now at this stage, I have like my own personal quota. I'd like to attend or speak at least 3 to 5 events, conferences, summits per month. And I just make sure that I'm always hitting my quota. And usually around this time, around this season, around the fall season, events really pick up. So it is quite overwhelming. And you definitely should pick and choose which type of events will work the best for you. You don't need to attend all of them. But at this stage of the game, I know how to be in and out of situations fairly quickly where it doesn't eat up as much as my time as you might think it would.
Got it. Yeah, because I think we've got the policy events covered here in town. We have plenty of panel discussions and things like that. But marketing, I think, is more and more important. That's why every once in a while I like to have you on to give some of your insights and tips on marketing, because public policy and understanding what's happening and being connected here in Washington is really just one half of what everyone should be trying to do. You've got to get a handle on how to reach your audience, how to reach your constituents. So, what role do you see for marketing? And the last time we spoke was, last year, but what's changed? What role do you see for marketing and public policy now that, you and I have been involved with, the Google Next Gen cohort? What are some ways that folks should be thinking about marketing when it comes to their public policy work?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good question. Things have changed. Things have changed quite a bit. And one of the main things that have changed is the power of social media has become a bigger deal when it comes to politics, social causes, activism, and public policy. And because of public policy comes from a sector that I don't want to say is necessarily outdated when it comes to marketing, but maybe a step behind, because there's so much to be doing with public policy that when it comes to the stage of marketing, the opportunity is still there to really amplify messaging and connect with your constituents and all sorts of audiences, growing your audiences and getting people more aware. The thing about public policy from a marketing standpoint, from an outsider that knows nothing about public policy, it isn't very pretty. It isn't very sexy. It isn't viral. So finding ways to market things is all about the art of storytelling. And I think that word gets used and tossed around a little bit too much. But but in the sense of, what's changed, we are seeing that the better storyteller is winning the fight with getting their messaging out there. Donald Trump is a good example of that. Ocasio is another huge example of that. And I don't want to just say using social media as far as like Twitter is concerned. I just mean that social media marketing has evolved and changed in a way where if you are supporting a specific policy, you can have an opportunity to get people on your side to support that policy. But you have to do it in an effective, authentic way, not in a copy-paste way, not in a salesy way. It has to be more in the art of storytelling and engaging with your audiences and having an emotional connection. And that's one of the things that has changed so much when it comes to marketing. A lot of times, the world of public policy is almost like an echo chamber. Like you're just sort of talking to the same people. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we have to step outside of the echo chamber and be able to promote our different policies and our different initiatives in a new way.
One of the challenging things is that a lot of being able to get your message out here in town is where you worked before. So a lot of folks who were in the Obama administration, for example, they were able to create podcasts and platforms where they talk about policy, and they're doing really well. But what are your thoughts on someone who hasn't worked on the Hill, or who hasn't, what are some ways to tell stories that resonate in a way that doesn't necessarily require you to have, lived out of your car for a few months and, working on the Hill for $24,000 a year?
Right.
What are some strategies there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really about doing research and educating yourself on different topics and policies that you're interested in being a champion for. I myself, as a social media influencer, I work a lot with social causes. I do not work on the Hill. I do not have any experience on the Hill, but I'm still connected to that world by connecting myself to that world and educating myself, and also taking the opportunity to say, okay, well, what kind of causes do I want to support? So, for example, one of my big talking points is social media depression, and how FOMO is a big deal, and like how we have to schedule timeouts from our social media channels. And it gives me an opportunity to, one, do a lot of research on, well, what does that look like to fix this problem? And then also, two, as far as policy is concerned, if there needs to be some sort of policy or regulations that are around this, how do I even go about that? How do I learn about these things and discuss it in a way where I'm making a difference? So as a creative storyteller, right? So I take that next step as a creative storyteller, having no experience with policies. I'm educating myself, and I'm promoting the messaging in my own way. So that might look like a montage of the beach, and you're getting beautiful scenery of ocean water on my Instagram stories, to the soundtrack of, I don't know, like AC/DC. I'm just using that as an example.
Wow.
And right, and I have like, and then I'm using my skill set where I know, one, video performs more than photos. Two, the habits of somebody that's scrolling through an Instagram story, they thumb through it so quickly that you have to have words for them to stop, go back, look, and read. So I will have statistics on top of this beautiful imagery of ocean water to the soundtrack of AC/DC. And I might have like 6 to 10 frames of that. And that's my way of sharing policy information in a creative, unique way that's going to be emotionally engaging and different than what you've seen before.
So what tools do you use? Because I see a lot of your Instagram stories, and I just say to myself, how does he do that? Some of them I can figure out, but most of the time I'm just like, are those trade secrets, or are you willing to share some of the tools
Sure.
and platforms that you use to create that great imagery?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, first of all, there are some trade secrets. but I also have like my own style, my own unique vision of things, right? There are 3 apps that I would recommend using that you can use for Instagram, but also you can use these same 3 apps and apply them to all social media outlets. So one is Mojo, and that's a way to do very creative video Instagram story type situations. Unfold and InShot. And they all do something very similar, where it's creating custom graphics, photos, videos, and you're able to apply music if you have music. A lot of them have their own music library, and there are different formats that you can use these things for, use these apps for, these tools to promote whatever you're doing, rather be on Instagram, Twitter, or Instagram stories. It's a way to really save time and have like a really high quality output. So it would be great for those of you out there that are like, hey, I'm looking to promote this policy, or hey, I'm looking to promote myself and I'm trying to do it in a creative way and save time, and I may not necessarily have all the tools to do it. Those 3 apps are essential to supporting that.
So Mojo, Unfold, and InShot. So what about trends, CJ? What trends do you see happening in digital marketing that when you go to these events? What are some inside tips that you're hearing that other folks should know about?
Absolutely. One, diversity and inclusion is a growing talking point. I think that we really need to start understanding that the Latinx community and the African American community in the U.S. economy, we're contributing, I believe, trillions of dollars to the economy. Trillions.
Yeah, I saw that Nielsen report.
And we need to be discussing that more, as far as like, what does that, like, how are we reaching those audiences in a much more effective way? I'm sure you saw what happened on Twitter with Popeye's chicken. That was amazing. That was like Black Twitter turning up. And basically, if you to give you a little bit of background on that, Chick-fil-A came out with a new chicken sandwich. Popeye's Chicken came out with a new chicken sandwich, to which Chick-fil-A tweeted at them, basically saying that they're copying off of them.
Whatever.
And Popeyes replied with a very smart ass response, which was amazing. And people saw the exchange and sided with Popeyes.
Yeah.
And I think it is a very good example of what's happening in our culture right now. Because what happened was, people felt that the little guy, also known as Popeyes, was being picked on by the bigger guy, also known as Chick-fil-A. And people went out of their way to support the little guy, Popeye's Chicken. Popeye's Chicken, I believe they generated over $29 million worth of advertising just from that tweet.
That's awesome. And I tried it. I went out and tried it because of that whole thing. I tried all 3 of them. Well, I didn't try Chick-fil-A because I'm boycotting them, but I went and tried Popeyes. It was phenomenal. And then I went to Wendy's to try theirs. And
which one did you like best?
I like the Popeyes, and Wendy's is definitely like 3rd place. But I don't know. I don't put I don't even rank. Chick-fil-A is unranked for me. So I'd bump Wendy's up to number 2.
And you know what? I think a lot of people made that decision as well. And also, as far as like trends are concerned, we are seeing the millennials and Generation Z are making a much larger impact. Generation Z is really interesting because they are using social media to their advantage to build their own companies, build their own brands, be their own leaders, and actually they're much more conscious of social issues, the environment, and they're doing their part in using their social media status to be activists. So we're seeing Generation Z become much more interested in activism. We're seeing millennials contribute more to the economy. But I also feel like millennials, from what we're seeing, we're still in that groove of finding ourselves. Whereas Generation Z is seeing how millennials conducted themselves on social media, and they're deciding to do something quite different. We're also seeing that there's again, social media depression is starting to become a much bigger problem, and we are seeing that the way to combat that is to really change the way that we are absolutely talking about the stories that influencers are telling, the way that we conduct ourselves on social media. It's just changing. I'd say a really good example of that is that, it's not necessarily cool to be the fashion blogger anymore. It's the fashion blogger can't necessarily get away with doing the same thing that they did before. We're seeing that people are getting a little bit tired of seeing people have this perfect life, the perfect shot, the perfect vacation trip, all of that. People are getting very tired of that because it's not reality. So we're seeing a little bit of an interesting trend in consumers and just audiences in general really want to see much more of a raw, gritty, behind the scenes insider look to the way people are living their lives without it being this like perfect happily ever after sort of situation.
Well, I got plenty of that for them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And how this all kind of like ties in with public policy is that there's just more opportunities for advertising whatever it is that you're working on. We're also seeing that digital ads are being much more effective and much easier to use now, to the point where like ad sales with Twitter are the highest they've ever been. It used to be you do a Twitter ad and they're not very effective at all, and now they're really effective. So digital ads are getting smarter, which just means that like automated tools, AI is getting smarter and playing a much larger role in our lives, and a lot of it is happening in ways that we're not even consciously aware of.
Yeah. And I see a lot of these platforms, though, they've become more selective in terms of which ads you can have up there, obviously, because of the Cambridge Analytica scandal and things like that. But that's another issue that we're looking at from a policy standpoint is that, the consumer, the CDA, Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, the one guy lost a case on summary judgment a few weeks ago because of CDA Section 230, and he was claiming that Facebook was treating his content less favorably than white supremacists. And the court just dismissed it because of Section 230C. So this was an example where Section 230 is used as a sword and a shield for content media companies. It's just kind of an interesting area.
No, that is interesting. And to your point, I think that like that is something interesting to note is that the fight for our attention is becoming a much larger like fight. Streaming, like the streaming wars are about to happen. Content creation, podcasts are on the rise. Like everybody is very interested in creating content. Not necessarily because everybody just wants to tell stories, but because it's easier to advertise to you now. It's just very easy, to the point where I'm not even quite sure what the regulations are going to look like and evolve within the next 4 years, because things are moving along so quickly. And when the American public knows that they're being sold to consciously, they make decisions on their own. But when we're talking about subconscious, not only are we much more effective marketers, are we much more effective with getting to your subconscious mind, but that's the game.
Everyone is and even when people are creating content, it's not even so much about getting advertisers. It's just like saying, okay, all of this data and all of this content that other people are posting is relevant. So if I don't post something, I'm not relevant. And so we've entered this dimension where data and content is more relevant than humans themselves. And so then we end up feeling like we have to contribute content in order to just survive.
I think that's a very interesting point, and I think that's one of the reasons why social media depression is such a large topic right now, because people feel like they're competing with each other for attention, for validation. And how public policy plays a role in this is, what do these regulations look like? What can we do to make the situation better? It's a double-edged sword, just like you were using the example earlier. There's just so much to dissect, and the issues that I think policymakers face when it comes to situations like this is that they're not educated enough about how the digital landscape is evolving. And I think we saw that with Zuckerberg in the hearings.
And then the thing is that if you want to have more technical people in Congress, they're going to end up being disproportionately not of color.
Correct.
And so so then we've got to deal with
Correct.
that. But anyway, a lot to unpack. But CJ, always great having you on and hearing about your marketing perspective. I think there are some huge takeaways from this that people will benefit from and hopefully implement. Let's break the ice, get some career tips from you, and hear about what you're watching, reading, and listening to after this. All right, what's one thing that most people don't know about you?
Ooh, I would probably say that I, at one point in time, was an award-winning violinist.
Wow.
And I played the violin from the ages of 9 to 12. No, 13. 9 to 13.
You know, when I got into LaGuardia, which is the Fame School in New York, I got in on piano, and there were so many kids who got in on piano, they forced us to take another instrument. So I actually started on violin, but then I didn't want to take it because I didn't see a role for violin in the jazz band. So then I got to jazz band, and there's only one piano player in jazz in an ensemble. So I ended up having to take the trombone. But in any case,
wow. So a fun fact about that is when I was 13, the reason why I stopped playing the violin is that I was forced to have to play the violin in a jazz band. I was the only violinist in a jazz band. So exactly.
Yeah, you knew what you were in for. That story. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, you can't lead with that.
I'm like, yeah, this isn't for me.
Yeah, exactly. So what's the best piece of career advice you've ever heard?
Wow, the best piece of career advice that I've ever heard was to be patient. I think that's something that I heard growing up my entire life from different people in amazing positions of power and role models. And I think that like when you're young and you're trying to establish yourself, you're very hungry. So when somebody says patience, that's like nails on a chalkboard. You don't want to hear that. And
right.
I think
like when you're behind the student driver and it says, "Please be patient."
Yeah, that's awful. That's awful. And I think that like also when you get older, you just get into the rhythm of like wins and losses. Like, life is like not easy. It has its ups and downs. It's and I think being patient applies to all sorts of things. When things are good, be very patient with yourself. Reward yourself. When things are bad, be patient and understand that like you've gone through situations before, and if you're just patient and you stick to what you know, and make sure that your habits are ones that will bring you success and happiness, you'll be okay. And so I think be patient.
I can't say what the best piece of advice, because I'd have to say it on every show. But the best the best piece of advice I've heard recently, I think you were there at the Google event. Someone said, I don't remember if it was someone at Google or someone in the audience. I think it was someone in the audience. Is don't be a jerk. Don't be an asshole.
Oh yes, yeah. Don't be an asshole.
Because people work with you because they like you.
Right.
That's
true.
So I thought that was a great piece of advice. Pretty obvious, but to hear it said in a public setting, and to hear it in the context of people working with you because they like you, not necessarily because of your pedigree, was
absolutely
insightful.
And that's a very interesting point that you just made. That is a very awesome piece of advice that I feel people don't follow and listen enough. It does say a lot about the world that we live in and about your character. If people enjoy working with you and they enjoy you as a person, you're going to get more opportunities. And there is a little bit of this like selfish need of, I need to get mine and I need to be in a powerful position. And, but none of that really means anything when you're approaching situations like that. That's like the worst thing you could ever do, because it's very transparent.
Do you get that on the West Coast as much as We get it here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, and for the record, Los Angeles is basically the same as DC, except we have nicer weather, and our culture is much more geared towards entertainment and startup culture.
Yeah, they used to say that DC is like Hollywood for ugly people, which I don't agree with.
Yeah, I mean, listen, man. First of all, you're a handsome guy. Okay, so like, the listeners need to know that Joe, he's listeners. Joe has a really nice smile. Everyone, just for the record,
when I'm smiling,
when you're smiling,
yeah.
Maybe we should also say that for everyone. When Joe smiles, he lights up a room because he barely smiles. Just so everybody knows, for the record.
Yeah, I guess the smile wouldn't matter if I were smiling all the time. But in any case, because I'm not Louis Armstrong, man.
Oh wow, you and me both. Yeah, and everyone, this is why me and Joe get along so well. We like to rip the Band-Aid off.
Exactly. But what are you reading and watching and listening to? You got any podcasts in queue? What are you watching? What are you reading?
Yeah, I'm actually I'm doing a little bit more. I'm taking a little bit more interest in financing and accounting, just because I feel like as a person of color, I need to be much more hip to taking care of my finances and being able to talk more about that openly with my supporters. So I'm listening to Robinhood Snacks. Robinhood is a really cool stock trading app that is growing in popularity, and they have an awesome podcast. It's like 15 minutes each episode, a daily podcast where they just kind of talk about what's going on in the world and how it's affecting the stock markets. And I think it's very interesting. The news headlines that they pick up are really good, really clever. I'm also reading a book called Presence, and that talks a lot about mind, body, spirit, and in a very science-based way. So in the science behind why you feel more confident when you achieve wins, or why you feel sad. Like, it's a really amazing book that I'm in the middle of reading. And what I'm watching Succession.
Oh, that's a great
HBO,
show. Great
which
show.
is an amazing show. It's an amazing show. I'm obsessed with all the characters in it. They're all terrible people.
Yeah, they all, but they're all awesome at the same time.
And you know what? I love seeing stories of. I mean, it's very true. A lot of the things that they're showcasing, like the reality of the situations of like startup culture, media moguls, and like family dynasties. I mean, that's always something that I find interesting.
Well, thanks again, CJ, for joining me. What are some final thoughts you have for us?
Yeah, some final thoughts. First of all, if you are interested in empowering yourself, leveling up, and just, enjoying your life a little bit better, then you need to start following me on social media. So I'm at CJ Johnson Jr. That's where you'll be able to find me. Also, I would like to tell your audience, your listeners, I hope that you are having an amazing day. I hope that you are reaching for the stars and you are finding everything that you want in life. I know that sometimes times can be difficult, but we're always able to weather the storm and persevere. You've been listening to digital influencer, brand marketer, and my friend CJ Johnson. CJ, always a pleasure. Thank you, Joe. That concludes episode 201 of the podcast. Thanks so much for listening. If you like what we do, we'd love to hear from you. Please take a moment and give us a review on your favorite podcasting app, including Apple Podcasts. Your rating and reviews really help us out and let others know what they can expect from the show. Also, head over to our website at techpolicypodcast.org. Sign up for our mailing list. I deliver commentary and data and research, the latest tech trends affecting underserved communities. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you back here next week. Take care.
Washington Tech.